Yeah.
Okay. So, Kimberly, how did you come to start Aikido?
I was studying with Trungpa Rinpoche in Naropa University, and also a woman, Barbara Dilley, a dance teacher. It was my senior year of college. My mother had just passed away, and so I was looking for a way to heal my soul. And in the moments of dancing with Barbara Dilley and practicing with Trungpa, I stumbled across Aikido, and that was it. I saw it the first day while I was on the dance floor, this beautiful woman spinning through space with this black hakama and this crisp white gi, and that was it. I never looked back. I have been training ever since.
So what was it that spoke to your soul when you first tried it out then?
I really felt the incredible spiral motion and sense of people coming together and then departing, and that breath rhythm of the exchange that people were having. And probably one of the really important things for me was the fact that it wasn't a competitive art. I mean, as compared with dancing, where there's always an emphasis to perform.
Wow.
For me, I was very drawn to the sense of everyday practice without some sense of having to have a goal to quote unquote get better. I really wanted to just have a spiritual movement practice.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, I've got quite a lot of and girls, I've got quite a lot of questions to ask. And at the end, if you've got any questions that you want to ask, then please do. And if there are any supplementaries you want to ask to the questions I'm asking, then chip in, okay? So if you put your hand up or something like that, so I know. Okay, so who was or is your biggest influence in Aikido and why?
Well, besides O Sensei, my teacher, Mary Heine Sensei, was the first teacher I had, and 42 years later, she remains a teacher that is inspiring to me for her immense ability to be a human being. She is just exactly what you see and what you get. She studies deeply. She has a great sense of humor, and I think she has devoted her life to this practice in a way that really inspires me.
Yeah. And who else has influenced your study, and in what ways?
I've been really, really blessed with really extraordinary teachers. That's part of my nature, is that I go out and reach for it. Saotome Sensei and Ikeda Sensei came to the dojo, Seattle School of Aikido, early in my training career. And I was encouraged by Mark Reeder, one of my friends and senpai, to train with those two teachers very early on. So I attended most years of the Boulder camp that Ikeda Sensei arranged. And also I went to Shingu a decade into my practice, and I had the great fortune of training with Ikuzuchi Sensei and Ono Sensei and Ase Sensei, Tojima Sensei, those teachers in Shingu. And I'll just never forget that experience. It was just, it went straight to my soul, straight to my soul.
Okay. I think that every teacher has their own way of doing Aikido. They are their own people, and they inspire in different ways. So what was it about Saotome you particularly liked, and Ikeda? If you can go through those names and just say, what was the main thing you maybe took from each of them?
Saotome Sensei, one word: posture. It's just his stance, his elegance, his ability. Every year in Missoula, he would say, "To be or not to be," and he absolutely made meaning of his stature and ability to say that martial art is actually about posture. That it's how you stand in the world and the stance you take. And I will always have gratitude for his teachings in that way.
Okay. And Ikeda Sensei? Oh, do you want to ask a question, Piers?
It wasn't a question. I just that phrase, because I've being very influenced by my son, who's a chiropractor, about posture. And as you get older, you watch everybody start to lean forward and sort of topple into the center. And it's something that I'm really, really keen on. And I love that phrase. It's not just your posture on the mat, but you're standing in the world. That is just a fabulous phrase. Thank you.
Well, you're back at you for even really highlighting it. Thank you. Really.
Okay. And Ikeda Sensei?
Ikeda Sensei has become a really incredible friend over the years, but early on was an extremely attentive teacher. I went to study with him when I was a third Q. I broke my foot in his hakama, like day 3. And I tried every day to jump on that mat for 3 or 4 months. And every day I could not. And every day I watched class in his dojo in the high school in Boulder, Colorado. I've trained with him most years for my life, and his sense of in the early years, the ukemi I got to take from him made me, I think, the teacher I am, because I think you really learn how to be a teacher by taking ukemi. And it was fierce and scary and fantastic. And I've always felt incredible mutual respect. I was always treated well by him. I'll to 5 different deaths, I'll always be so grateful.
Glenn, I've got a question there. Could you expand upon the link between taking ukemi and being a good teacher?
Yeah, I really believe that the degree to which you can experience the transmission of the teacher through the sensory ability, the neuromuscular, the vibration, the ability of a teacher to have that quality of touch and pulse. I learned how to save my life taking falls at great speed. And I learned how to get back up and brush off any challenge and be right there again. And that was extremely character building, I think, because I was a shy person. I was pretty insecure, but getting back on my feet, that made sense without having to be cognitive about it.
That's great. Thank you.
And Ano Sensei, Kimberly?
Ano Sensei is the teacher of the heart. There's just no question about it. From the beginning, he would speak to don't throw, but blend. Now his message is extremely about, it's all about kokoro. It's all about get rid of the nage, recognize that the relationship is about a coming together and then some sort of ecumenical way to complete the conversation, only to begin it again. He is still going to the dojo, still practicing the Norito and practicing Shinkokyu on a daily basis. He drives his little truck down to his dojo every morning except Sunday and trains. And his devotion is amazing.
So
for lack of a more fancy word.
So for the benefits of the audience, how old is he now?
I think he's 88.
Great stuff. Thank you. So what do you see as the key benefits of studying Aikido?
It's a way to stay, it's a way to imagine that you could transform the world into a place where we really actually cared about each other as human beings in a spectacularly normal and humane way.
Anything else?
Well, sure. There's a lot of the sense of community is the most important thing for me, I think. It started with 3 or 4 people and just the community that I have on a daily basis and in where I live is one thing, and then it expands out like ripples. You know, I run rivers most of my life, and being on a river, there's no question that you're always connected. there's also no question you're always uke. You're always at the mercy of the river, really. But the river will respect you if you're smart. And I feel that way with a sense of community, that if you're really genuine about it, it gives back to you, and there's this pulse, it's a breath. And every day that informs me, and every day I'm grateful for the people that I've come to know intimately on all different levels, including yourself, Quentin. We've had now, I don't know how many years, but it's a friendship that happened because of Aikido. True. And it probably will go on for the rest of our lives. So, you know, yeah. Well, what's to not make that go, you know?
So perhaps expanding on that a little bit, what are the things that Aikido has given you personally? What are the greatest gifts and things that you think it's given you?
Oh, my brilliance. My husband.
Well, that's a good start. Is he
my gorgeous husband?
and of course, your modesty.
Yeah. I didn't say I was gorgeous. I said my husband was gorgeous. You know, I mean, I make a joke of it, but he did walk into the dojo in 1990, and my eyes just went over there, and that was kind of it. So, yeah, it has had an impact for sure. Again, I have had the opportunity to hang out with spectacular human beings because of Aikido, and each of those teachers. I mean, I just wrote a piece on Terry Dobson and my memories of traveling with him down the West Coast for 5 or 6 days, and the hilarity of that and the honor of that. And when you get to be with people that have a level or an aura of majesty or just clarity and charisma and majesty almost, you know, you get to feel that and steal it if you could. So yeah, it's been palpable to be with people that are really attempting to unify the world in their own ways. And I believe in that wholeheartedly, that we can do it.
Okay. So you started in 1978. By my reckoning, that's 42 years. How do you keep your practice fresh?
Good question. That's a great
That's a good question.
Yeah. I you know, it's in my cells. So I wake up most days and do some form of gratitude practice. Whether it's I won't say that I do Shinko Q every day, but every day I'm moving through space in an Arimi and Tenkan like-minded way, and I am every day expressing gratitude for the life I have and the people that have been so delightful to be with me and to take care of me and to see me, really, to be seen and to see back.
Right. So
good question.
That's good. It's all good. All good. So I know that you have done in the past many other things related. Well, maybe related to Aikido, maybe they're not. What other things have you studied that you think have had a direct impact on your Aikido?
Well, dancing for sure. I've done, as a child, I danced, and as an adult, I practice ballroom dancing, particularly Latin dancing was very helpful to my understanding of hip motion and connection and again, posture. You know, my dance teacher was always yelling at me that I didn't have a frame, and I would try to argue back, like, but that's what I teach in Aikido. And he would go, well, I'm sorry. Work harder.
I remember going to a dance class. What was that thing that you did? The sort of Latin dancing, Piers?
I did. Well, no, it wasn't Latin. It was more rock and roll. It was Sarok.
Name. What was the called?
Sarok.
Sarok. Okay.
Sarok.
Went to a Sarok class, and exactly the same experience. So I'm there for the first night, and I'm being told to relax. I'm saying, but this is what I teach. What do you mean I'm not relaxed?
Exactly. But Pierce doesn't have that problem, right?
No.
Always relax.
So dancing, anything else?
Yes, Tai Chi. Tai Chi has been amazing. I've been doing Tai Chi for 20 years. I have an incredible teacher, Ken Wright. The practice of opening and closing, the practice of silk reeling, the practice of expanding and contracting. It's really, really impacted my Aikido deeply. And I do Tai Chi every day. I do the Chen 48 every day, and sometimes 2 or 3 times. And I'll walk down the streets doing the form, and people think I'm nuts. No one's arrested me yet, but you know.
It's probably very good for your social distancing, though, isn't it?
Just shoot me.
Is there anything else? Because you've led quite an interesting sort of career as well. You studied all sorts of things.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You're so kind, you know. Rivers have been huge because I've been running rivers since I was a little girl, because my father was a fisherman. That was what he loved to do when he wasn't as a hobby and a practice. And he took me all over the rivers of the West Coast. And so I began rowing at a young age. But when I began to work as an oarsman on the large rivers of the United States, the Colorado, the Snake, and the Salmon rivers, I would be on those rivers for 5, 8, sometimes 12 days in a row with passengers, and all the water levels change constantly. The everything shifts, and you've got to go from point A to point B. So you have to be fearless, and I'm terrified of water. So it's always me facing probably one of the biggest fears of my life. And don't ask me more about that, because people kind of think I'm nuts to be doing something that I'm scared of all the time, but it works for me.
I think that's what interviewers do. They do ask, when you give an interesting answer, they got to probe. So I'm interested. So there you were, this slight young lady taking groups of people down these rapids. How did they react to you?
Well, that depends. First couple of days, they'll stay as far away from me as possible, so only the people that are left at the very end have to get stuck in my boat. But a couple days go by, and they see how smooth I am, and they see how, because I'm small, I would never battle with the river. I would always try to tuck myself into the eddy sweetly. And then I had a really fantastic teacher there too, Lonnie Hudson, who early on I spent a lot of time with, just the 2 of us running these rivers in flood in the spring. And I learned how to just do those things that we do in Aikido, so gently and smoothly. And you know, when they could figure out they wouldn't die, they began to jump in my boat. So
there seems to me to be a real parallel with you as a female teacher on the mat. You know, there's still much fewer. There are many more women teachers in the States than there are in the UK. Still by far in the minority, I would think. How is it for you as a female teacher doing a martial art? How does that work? Has it been a strength, a weakness? Has it? Good. There's probably pros and cons.
Well, I think I've had incredible women role models. Obviously, Mary Heine Sensei is terrific. And then early on, I had the opportunity to be called to know Linda Holliday Sensei and Danielle Smith, and then there's Joanne Veneziano, who I grew up with, who's fierce. My God, good luck. And so I've had those women, but also I've had men who treated me like I was a human being. Ikeda Sensei never once said to me, "Well, you're a girl, so da da da." Never once. And Terry Dobson would never do that either. So there's a way that you have to stand up for yourself, of course. But as I move into my years of Aikido, it's so much about not connecting with personality. So I don't have as much fear about trying to throw a big person, because that's not my intent. I connect with the intention before I connect with physicality. So I feel like I've been blessed to be a woman in this art.
I agree. When you look at the Aikido world generally, do you think it's fulfilling O-Sensei's mission?
Well, Quentin, you and I had this conversation an hour ago about what we might think is the silver lining of COVID. And really, we are absolutely required to go inside and for those of us who are going to tap into it at all, just stop, literally stop. I mean, the planet is asking us to reflect on our impact on it. And so I think that's the time for us to really be reevaluating what is Aikido and how can it contribute to the healing of the planet.
Are you hopeful that we as a community can have a significant impact?
I don't think there's any other way to go. I really, truthfully, don't think there's any way to go. I think that hope is what binds us together, and I think that it's not being stupid. It's just suggesting that intention to move things forward using Aikido is what is upon us. For me, it's not really a question. It's more of a, how do we go about this?
That was
now.
That, interestingly, was my next question.
Hello, Quentin.
Yeah, please.
In England or in the UK, the Aikido societies, I mean, it's a fractured society. There's split upon split upon split. So do you see in America that splitting, or is it coming together?
Boy, that is a really incredible question, Piers. And I don't know that I really am in a fantastic place to speak to the entirety of the community in the United States, because like you, I feel like there's a lot of different organizations, and some of them are respectful to each other, and others of them have a real different tangent. So I think I would play the modesty card here and speak to the organizations that I feel very aligned with and I'm working with, and that is like the California Aikido Association. Michael Friedel and I work very closely together, and also the teachers that really are aligned through the Shingu lineage. So, and then I'm always looking at how can Aikido go out to larger people who don't know anything about it yet, thinking that that's our goal for the future too, is to open up the doors to those who have not yet actually touched it. So I'm sorry, I don't think that's a full answer for you, Piers.
Well, no, because no, that's very interesting. And then what's your approach when you try and make these reaching out to other organizations, maybe commercial, industrial, financial? How do you do that? And do you do it positively at the moment?
Well, at this very moment, for me, it's an incredible effort to keep. I probably have a couple of hundred people between the kids and the adults to attempt to keep some alliance with, or some connectivity with, in terms of my organization.
Yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, and including financial, obviously. But the goal of the Institute was actually to really build more of a lengthy community center and bring in other art forms that would connect back and forth together to kind of reach out to populations that aren't as fortunate as us, and also to really spread the teachings of Aikido into a larger spectrum. So yeah, our business plan is attempting every day to really get that going, so that we can develop the grants and the support, financial support to build out this building, which we have and have yet really to have the finances to be able to get going on. Yeah. So I mean, there's so many ways to answer that question. But at this moment in time, it's quite an effort, I think, just to keep everybody kind of feeling in a rockabye baby kind of way together, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to go to the dojo, like for example, on a Saturday morning, and I would be within a 4-hour period of all the different classes I was involved in or watching be taught. I would be able to see 40 or 50 eyes and say, okay, you're fine. Okay, you need some attention. Okay, I know what to do. But now, given it's an email-y thing or it's a Zoom thing, it's really different, and I think it takes a lot more work on my part, and others I've spoken to feel the same way.
Yeah.
You've touched on a couple of times, Kimberly. You've talked about the bigger picture of Aikido and taking it out into the world. I thought, to me, is what O-Sensei's mission was all about. He said it was a tool to reconcile the world. So what do you think we should be doing as a community to get what we learn on the mat out into the bigger world, the people that don't practice on the mat?
Well, you know, we all talk about these practices that can change the way that we interact on a moment-to-moment level. Just for example, how we breathe, and of course Aikido. I mean, you can't ignore your breath on the mat. I mean, because you get out of breath. So maybe one of the things that we're all doing right now is connecting our breath practices to a larger spectrum of being able to maintain your grounding and centering when you're in abject fear. And there's a tremendous, you know, this city kind of started off this virus in a kind of a dramatic, violent way, if you will. I mean, we were one of the first cities to sort of peak hard, and it created, and there's just a lot of fear around that. And I think really at the core, Aikido has something to tell us about how we live right and die right. And I think that we really need to be looking at what is the process of death involved in our living. And Aikido helps us look at that, because when a sword's coming straight down on your head, it's like, you know, straighten up and die right. And I feel like there's some ways to be able to take those very radical teachings out into the world. And I'm a big fan of Pema Chodron, and I'm a big fan of Thich Nhat Hanh, and I spent a lot of time studying that. And Pema does weekend workshops on the power of really looking at your death. And I think that's a very important thing to do, particularly right now, because it's in our face. So I don't know if you want to get that deep, but that is what I think about quite a bit.
It is a huge question and boundless answers, really. But I don't think we're doing enough to get our message as a community out there.
It's tough, but, and I'm a pretty shy person, so it's not my real thing to just go to one meeting after another, nonprofit meeting, to say this is what I do. I kind of rely on some of my staff and my colleagues that are in my organization to do that. We have a parent group that a couple of them, they're really out there talking to the nursery schools and the middle-aged schools, and getting more kids to come in and learn how to play together in non-competitive ways. So, for example.
Okay. So one of the beauties of Aikido for me is that it's something that we share, and it's very interactive with other people, but in another way it's very selfish, because in order to develop ourselves we have to practice with others. So what are you working on in your personal practice now? What are you particularly looking to develop right now? What's the focus of your training?
My posture, for one, and always. My ability to increase my field, if you will, my awareness of my front and back, my up and down, my side. Just moving through space, seeing myself be aligned in not just my physical body, but my field, and hence when I'm interacting with others in that same way. I also think I'm trying to learn to speak the truth. So I'm trying to learn to really drop into my genuinity as much as possible, and move from that place, as opposed to try something on and get by. So I spend a lot of time in meditation about that, and I also ask the question, who am I? Who am I that I don't know who I am? So I think that's a very, very valid question to ask of each other. What do we think? Who do we think we are that we actually don't know who we are? So, and Tom Reed Sensei is a very powerful teacher of mine, and he asked that of me most days that I was training with him in Arcata, California, back in 1985.
That's a very profound answer. Thank you. What's the most recent revelation you've had in your study?
Oh, wow.
Woo! So, Pierce, what do you think?
Oh, God. I'm glad I'm not being interviewed.
Me too.
Getting home from, first from Guatemala and then from Hawaii, in this last month, I was sharing with Quentin that I had gone to Guatemala for a writing retreat, and I left Guatemala on March 6th or something. And I think that in the time that I left that, the virus was just starting to jump like crazy in our city. So then it's my partner's 70th birthday, so I'm going to Hawaii with him, and people are going, "Don't go," and I went, "I'm going." And getting home from there, the last flights the last days, the last flights, canceled flights, whatnot, having to deal with all of that, because at the time Hawaii didn't really believe that they could be susceptible to the virus. So there was a lot of cacophony and miasma around it all, and trying to keep my cool was really a very big teaching. And now having to, I think, be extremely positive for the whole array of how people are doing it in my community, and standing up and saying, we will heal, and we will be for people for it, and we will be more kind to each other. That's probably the biggest teaching, is just to stay true to these teachings, even when you're scared.
So you'll know that I put together the book, The Way to Reconcile the World, a collection of Aikido stories from around the world, of which there are a few contributors on this call. Can you think of a story of how Aikido profoundly affected you in some sort of event in daily life that really sticks with you, you'd like to share?
Well, I think there's a couple of times in my life, and all of you probably have had one, but a couple of times where you're taking ukemi and I'll just put it this way, you go through a rabbit hole. Like you go in and you come out the other side, and you're a transformed human being. You're a different person than when you went in. This happened to me with Motomichi Yano Sensei, where I felt like my whole entire body just particleized, and I came out the other side, and I felt I was something different. Took me, and to this day I really examined that, but I've also experienced that on rivers, where I've hit a rapid, or I've hit something and then come out the other side of a swim. And those experiences I touch on most days, particularly, for example, when something's going really awry and I'm impatient and I'm tight, and I start to lose my temper, and how can I sit back and remember those experiences of where time and space just sort of shifted, and there was so much more to life than I actually know. So I guess that's not probably a perfect answer, but it is. It's really what I feel.
Well, imperfect answers.
No, that's a good answer. It's very interesting, but I would like to push the question again.
Sure.
Because I think what Quentin was getting at is can you think of a situation where you've interacted with a member of the public, a work colleague, you know,
as a parent, whatever, where you're saying, "Thank God I train in Aikido."
Yeah,
You've got
where
that little voice on your shoulder.
Oh, sure.
I did something because of Aikido, and that made that situation better.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Well, there was, yeah. You'll have to come back to it.
Okay.
Okay, well, if you come back to it, you have to write it down for the next book then. Okay, sort of follow up to that. What's your proudest moment when a student's come to you and told you a story about, "Thank God I train in Aikido and thank you for all you've done because it transformed this situation"? What's the story that most sticks out in your mind?
Most recently, I have a really fantastic student who will remain anonymous, but his job is quite hefty, and he's responsible for opening up a very large corporation and overseas. And then this virus is here, and sort of the inequities of handling big business in that way, and telling me that dealing with his groups and his organization has changed his life over and over and over again. And he's been with me for probably maybe 18 years, and constantly offers gratitude for the levels and the challenges that come with each level. And for example, what would a brown belt level look like versus what would a Nidan level challenge look like? And and I have so many people who express gratitude for example, somebody who 50 years old, never done anything physical in her life, and then coming on the mat as a pretty profound international trauma therapist, and the transformation of her into a physical being, and having a sense of visceral impact connected to what she teaches and counsels. She's just constantly saying how different it is. And now she's limited by what she does. So she sits in it, she trains in a chair, and has opened me up to the idea that, when we come back, there will be chairs on the mat, because there are certain people who really actually need to train in that fashion. And I need to be open-minded to see how that could work.
Lovely. Okay, we maybe, it's an interesting time for Aikido. A lot, particularly in America, where a lot of professional teachers, and this gap brings them really close to the wall, and numbers have been falling generally. How do we turn that tide, do you think?
Yeah. I firmly feel that reaching out to every member of my community and acknowledging the diverse way that they train, finding ways to be as creative as possible to have people connect their art to their lives. I believe that we need to start attending to children when they're 4 and 5 and 6 years old. I now have, up until COVID, a group of at least 12, maybe 14 teenagers who were all looking at blue and brown belt. And many of those teenagers came from being kids. So I see that I have a whole group of young people coming up and taking on leadership that will be the future of Aikido. And without those kids and those 20 somethings, I don't have a lot of hope that we at 60 and 70 and 80 can carry it. So I think it's about really youth a lot.
Okay, so you've touched on it a few times in this conversation, I think.
And Dave wants to ask a question.
Yeah. Go on, Dave.
Yeah, just in terms of the youth, though, something that we don't do in our organisation. I'm not too sure many in the UK do. And I just wondered what you did to inspire the youth or the young people to train with you. What did you offer them? How did that proliferate? Because I agree that we need to get the young people more involved. But I just wondered what tricks or techniques or initiatives you use to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And really for me, it started, I was teaching kids in like 1990 at Seattle School. Well, actually, I wasn't teaching the kids in 1990. There were other folks doing that. But in 95, when I opened up 2 Cranes, I had 2 kids. Both of those kids went on to brown and black belt, but it started with 2 kids, and then I went to 4 kids, and then I went to 10 kids. One of the things I did was reach out to every single parent, sat down, really expressed the power of what could happen to the children if they trained. One thing led to another. There were folks that became kid teachers. Those teachers had their own ideas. Now I have a staff of, I don't know, I think maybe 12 teachers in the dojo, black belt teachers who teach the kids and the teens. They all have their creative ways of going about it. They're all attentive to really making relationships with the parents. And it's tribal. The kids like being with kids, particularly teens. So you're not going to get teens advancing unless they want to do it with their friends. And then we have Friend Day, and we really emphasize quite a bit of weapons, and we treat them as adults, and we are hard, and we train hard with them and with the older ones, and the little ones we act as though it's they're in a play box, they're in a sandbox, and we roll around the mat with these 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds. And people say, well, that's not meaningful, but you know what, it really is meaningful. And those kids stay on, and they train, and they train in adult classes. So I don't know. I know that we're just working our ass off to keep that alive and well and expanding.
Thank you very much. Great answer. Thank you.
When COVID arrived, it came as a bit of a shock to the whole world, and definitely the Aikido community. What's it taught you?
You know, to invest in my quiet, to invest in my reverence for the planet, to recognize that I'm not hearing airplanes. What I'm hearing is new bird sounds. I take 5-6 mile a day walks, and try to take in how clean the air is, and what human beings have done to this planet is somewhat despicable, if you will. So I think we need to heal ourselves and each other, and I think we need to give more attention to this beautiful place we live on and take care of it. So it's really been tough to close down a dojo. I mean, basically, we have classes every day, sometimes morning, noon, and night, and lots of people who rely on it. And now there's a number of people who cannot find their way to Zoom. It just doesn't appeal to them. Some of them probably are on Zoom all day long in their business. So we expect to go back to training in the park at the NMA. That's our expectation, but really we don't know.
Fair enough.
What about you? Or how are all of you? Is there a timeline? Is there a time that you imagine that you will be able to return in some fashion to practice, or is that
no sign of that anytime soon? I don't think. So
really?
We're still in lockdown. They're starting to talk about how they might slowly release us from lockdown, but I think Aikido will be a bit like air flight travel. It'll be one of the last things that you can be encouraged to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Nobody knows how this is going to unfold, but I don't think this will be happening till quite a bit later in the year, at best. At best.
Yeah, I agree. Also, what they're talking about is unlocking by industry. So it'll be industries like building, construction, that sort of thing first, and then the entertainment areas, the restaurants, the pubs and clubs, and contact sports. It's going to be one of the last ones to go, unlocked. And also they're looking at potentially unlocking by generation. So they're talking about maybe releasing the 20 to 30-year-olds first,
Wow.
Because
Really?
there are 4.2 million 20 to 30-year-olds that work in the country. So you let them back first because they're least likely to have severe COVID.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. As you get older, you become more susceptible and the death rates get higher. So that's the thinking behind that.
Well, I suppose. I don't believe if you do Aikido that's true, but I'll go with it.
I keep saying that too. Yeah,
I mean, in Montana, Houseville, Montana, their dojos is going back next week. So just FYI.
Yeah, interesting.
There are studies that show that people who exercise have protection against COVID. So that's a good thing.
I totally believe that if your immune system, that Aikido encourages a healthy immune system.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So in a minute, Paul, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, well, I'd like to make a comment. I've traveled a bunch and taught in a lot of places, and it seems that Aikido is not violent enough for the current interest. They want to win, they want to have tournaments. Even the ads on television have angry people talking about go places. But it's just in between the COVID and the fact that we're trying for peace and other people want war, it's difficult to get people interested, young people.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, I think Kimberly is a bit of brilliance in that is to actually say to the parents that are turning up to the class, you really should be bringing your children here. I think that's a brilliant strategy, actually. So, and you've got a big enough community to make that work, or to seed the child's program. Some of us haven't right now, but that's a really, really good idea, I think.
I also think we deal a lot with kids' disabilities, emotional, psychological, neurological. We really address every single kid that comes, and there's a lot of kids with a lot of challenges, and it's pretty profound to me, Quentin, to see the amazing kindness that that these kids express to one another. I have to say, I applaud them, and I'm sometimes astounded because again, I'm impatient. So I
was just going to say, at 8 o'clock on Thursday night, everybody goes out and claps our National Health Service, sort of like you're doing in America, but our time is 8 o'clock on a Thursday, right, in this session. So I'm going to take a vote on this. Guys, do we want to nominate Liz to do it on our behalf, or would we like to take 5 minutes and do that ourselves?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So at about 2 minutes to 8, Kimberly, if it's okay with you, we'll take a 5-minute break. You can get some water or whatever, and we'll go and do our clapping thing. And those who want to stay here can carry on chatting. And then if we don't mind, we'll come back and finish the session.
Quentin,
yes.
don't forget that tonight's clap is also for Captain Tom's 100th birthday. So we're going to all be collectively singing happy birthday for him as a nation too.
Okay.
Don't forget that.
Well, I won't forget that.
I'm sorry, but I have to leave on the hour. I have 2 other conferences that I'm.
Oh, Lyndon, I just want to say it's so nice to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you too.
Yeah. Wow.
It's lovely to see you, Paul.
It is.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for the exchange. Yeah.
So Kimberly, I'm going to set you a challenge to come up with a question you would like us all to answer when we get back. Okay,
sure. So
everyone have the chance to answer that. Yeah.
Quentin, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just call back?
Well, you can just leave the room open and just
okay.
stay here for 5 minutes, or stay chatting with whoever stays here,
sure.
As you like. But yeah, we'll. It's now 19:53, so we've got a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so you talked about. I asked you what you got from certain teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're going to hate this question because you're modest, but what would you like to be your legacy in Aikido? What would you like your students to say about that you gave them?
I think I would like them to feel like I was present with them when I was with them. I was 100% with them. Like that, my attention was not shifted and not doubled. It was just there. I was present.
Anything else?
Well, one of my gifts is compassion. One of my gifts is the ability to be able to really sense in a grounded way where the heart is. And I think I had that as a kid, just in terms of managing my family structures. And I think I share that with my students. I think I invite them to feel their hearts and their sense of connectedness to themselves and their world and the divine, if you will, their sense of higher power. I inspire that.
Great. Guys, I think we got a chance for one question from the panel, so to speak. So any of you got a question you'd like to ask?
Okay, I've got a question. Do you think there's a lot of talk about healing the world, and this is an opportunity for people to think what the hell's happening? Do you think that when the crisis is over, people will just return back to the commercial, greedy norm? Or do you think that there's going to be an actual change for the better?
I think that human beings are embryonic, and we've only been here for a little while when you think about it in terms of the whole structure of the galaxy. And those people who really made an attempt to find a little more consciousness in it all will absolutely evolve. And those who don't. And I think it's such a mix. And as far as returning to Aikido, I don't know that anybody knows. One student said to me, "Oh my God, maybe Aikido's dead because we can't ever touch each other again in this lifetime." And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just really can't abide by that, because touching is what we do. We are sensory beings. So I think that we will find our ways back, and we'll find new ways to consider and respect Ma'ai and our ability to connect with each other on a multitude of dimensions that maybe we're not really focusing on right now. So that's a really cool question. And I would love to know how you feel about that too.
I think there are a lot of people who are never going to be the same again, which is great. I just hope we're not completely dominated by the mad, greedy lot who want to go, oh my God, this is the worst recession, whatever. We've got to do more to dig more coal, get more oil, we've now got to make up for lost time.
God forbid us, And I live in a huge area where water is it. Water is the, I just think the whole message was respect for nature. So I really can't say. And I have children and grandchildren, and for their sake, I just pray. I put all of my attention and all of my juice into how can we take care of this planet.
Guys, I'm going to call us our 5-minute break now, if that's okay. Sure. So we'll come back at about 3 minutes past 8. Okay. So do what you need to do.
Okay.
I guess not all of us are going to go and clap.
I'm going to stay lying in bed because I'm idle.
Where I live, Kimberly, have you ever been to my house? I don't think you have.
But I was sort of looking forward to the possibility the next time I came over. I thought that was going to be really great.
Yeah, you've just got to do it. Well, I live on top of this hill, and it's a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. So it's one of the best places you could possibly be locked down. Every day I go for about a 1.5 mile walk up to the top of the mountain.
Wow.
I take my Bokken every day, and I do about, between 300 and 400 cuts and breathing. It's just a great way to start the day.
That is awesome. And I remember you talking about your beautiful space and your honey and the whole idyllic thing you got going there. Pretty nice.
Yeah, really lucky. Hi, Jamie. How you doing?
Hi there. I can vouch for it. I've been there. Oh my God.
Yes, indeed.
I hear that voice. I hear that familiar voice. That's Jamie.
Yeah.
Hi, Jamie.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I've been conducting a session myself, so thought I'd try to catch you guys. He's not exaggerating. This place is great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well,
good walks, the best hikes. Oh, right out his door. It's amazing.
Well, I live about a mile from, or about a block from a 3-mile lake, and it's a beautiful lake. And when they've opened it as of last week, we can walk that lake pretty daily. And the eagles there, and the great blue herons, and they fight with the crows, and they fight with the mallards, and it's really a great way to be in nature on a daily basis. So
I think I've been to that lake, walked around it somewhere in the past.
You have, Jamie.
Yeah. No, it's good. Seattle's so just, there's millions of places. So good.
It is so good, but there's also millions of people.
Well, it must be amazing to not have traffic in Seattle. I can't imagine.
You know, the first week was amazing. The first week to have empty streets was pretty trippy. It's really come back now. It's
really?
Oh yeah. We have traffic now. We don't have air traffic, but and you know, they had to close the parks because it's Coney Island at Green Lake. I mean, people are sunbathing, and you know, people are people.
Wow.
And where are you, Jamie? You look like you're in the snow.
That's my backyard about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
It's melted now, but that's literally out my back door. I'm on a street. I mean, there's houses here, but this backyard is a big meadow, and there's probably 30, 50 houses like lining it. It's just this giant meadow that goes for more than half a mile or something. Yeah. Very fortunate. Truckee. Yeah.
Truckee, yeah. That's where.
Yeah. Feel fortunate here. It's really good.
Yeah, clean air.
Mm-hmm.
Pierce, how is your family?
Yeah, they're really well. It's very frustrating being locked down, and I've got a new grandson. So, yeah, he's 18 months now. And in the last 6 weeks, he's gone from just walking to running, and his vocabulary has just transformed in 6 weeks.
Wow.
So, it's extraordinary just watching him on FaceTime and stuff.
Oh, nice.
But
so, when you say lockdown, are you literally not being able to see and move around with your families and this and that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're not really supposed to. And when I suggested to my son, I said, look, I'm really getting pissed off with this lockdown nonsense.
Yeah.
I've been isolated at home, and I only see Jill, or we go to the shops. So, and I don't go to the shops very often because the village has a very little tiny shop, and we can go to that. So I said, well, can't I come over? And he said, well, I'll have to speak to his wife, and she's pretty strict on these rules. So and all the grandparents are saying, hey, can we come over and see our grandson? And at the moment, we're not being allowed to, so they're being very strict. It's very frustrating.
We don't have that quite as much, actually, but
do you think
you did have it pretty strict, didn't you, Kimberly?
Yeah, pretty strict. Yeah, well, Inslee was. I really appreciated.
He's
Inslee
done great. I like him.
Yeah, and there's a great article that just came out in the New Yorker about what Seattle did that New York did not do, and it's true. We had some not happy people about it, but I think that he really actually made it so that the frontliners are not having to deal with what is going on in New York City at this moment.
Yeah, we've had that too with Gavin. Gavin Newsom's been good, and they're doing a regional thing. I mean, I think Inslee and Gavin and the governor in Oregon have really done well. I'm surprised. I didn't know Seattle was kind of coming back so much so fast.
Yeah, and it's a real crapshoot, right? Because I think he's just today he announced that he's encouraging lockdown up through the middle to the end of the month. But there's still things that are opening up here, and as Pierce mentioned, construction is one of them, and that's quite a irritant to folks who are the small business owners and the restaurants and whatnot, that they would support construction over that. But because we have so much construction in this city.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the politics of the whole thing is a little intense.
I think so. I think really for me, it's just an issue of dealing with hearts more than that, just and dealing with assurance, because there is quite a bit of fear. There's fear. I mean, it's just been transformative the way even my neighbors experience relate to me,
Mm-hmm.
How do you mean, Kimberly?
I mean that if if you've had challenges in your life, if you've had strokes or heart attacks or this or that, or you've had things that have been difficult for you in your immune system, and suddenly, everything around you, is a moving target, then I think I'm experiencing people who I really love and I know pretty well just say, I'm going to just stay back. And so that fear is pretty palpable. It's, and I have deep compassion for them really feeling like, excuse me, Sarah, I have deep compassion for that level of fear and that level of anxiety, from a moment to moment basis.
I think it took a while over here as well that we had a new norm, this sort of social distancing norm, and it's so alien. I mean, I remember back in middle of February, I went to a charity to align ourselves with that charity. We wanted to give them some of our stuff and help them, and they were going to help us with publicity. And just at that time, we were told you shouldn't be shaking hands. And it's so difficult not to shake hands. But now that's the new norm. I mean, no one even thinks about shaking hands. And we're often a huggy society. And now the new norm is, okay, I'll go and, I went to see my sister, which I wasn't supposed to do last Wednesday. But I went to see her, and I didn't hug my sister. I didn't hug my nieces. And neither party even thought about it. The new norm is you stay 4 or 5 feet apart, which is totally alien. But you now, when you meet somebody, you don't feel affronted that you haven't done this shaking hands or getting close.
Put us back to the main session.
Yes.
So we'll get sunk in COVID talk, and I'm fed up of talking COVID.
There you are, Quentin. We can restart here. This might.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Saved by the bell.
So it's not fair, Kimberly, because they didn't give you any space or time to think about the question you might want to ask us, but I'm hoping you're inspired and have one.
Well, I'm inspired by what you're inspired by right now. I mean, as I'm sitting here speaking with you, probably the best thing that's happening to me today is I'm watching these chickadees build this nest right in front of my dogwood tree here in my office. And I could just spend all day watching those two little creatures be very sort of tidy and careful because the crows are right there. So, I mean, it's kind of that, like, what is inspiring you right now with your years of Aikido, and how you're going to put that out to really have an impact. Each one of you has an impact. So I would really be curious how you're doing that.
Who wants to answer first? I'll get the ball rolling then. See a plethora of hands there. Okay, for what inspires me, I actually think this is a time of opportunity. So I'd rather see it as a time of opportunity rather than a dreadful thing. And working that opportunity, that's inspiring. And the other thing is just having the time to notice the little stuff. I mean, I had a pretty balanced and chilled life anyway, but more so now. And just getting out and seeing what's changing in the garden every day.
Yes.
Is a real joy. So that's my answer. If you don't put your hand up, I'll just volunteer you.
All right, Quentin.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Hi, Liz.
Oh, hello. Love it. Thank you very much for everything you've said this evening.
Oh.
It's evening to us anyway. It's just been wonderful. Yeah. I've just I think like a lot of people, my life is normally really hectic. I'm running around doing everything. I'm working, I'm being a mum, I'm active in our local Labour Party, I'm parish, it just does not stop, does it? And with the way things have changed now, it's actually slowing down in a very positive and constructive way, and finding the power of silence, the power of quiet living. It's incredible. And it's almost like I feel like I would only have experienced this otherwise if I joined a nunnery or something.
You went on a 20-day retreat, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like I feel like I'm on a retreat, and it's amazing. And I'm still finding out what effects it's having. But little things like I say, going for a walk every day and really hearing the bird song. Now, I've always loved listening to the birds, but now the planes are stopped because we're on a flight path from Heathrow, and now there's very few cars coming through, and we can hear them properly, and the birds themselves are happier and
they're so happy
and making it's amazing how the natural world has really come to life. And I totally agree, Kimberly, what you were saying earlier, that the planet is seriously trying to tell us something now.
I agree.
Deborah, come on, it's your moment. Unmute.
Yes, sir. What inspires me, a lot of the things that people have already said, but also just the love that's being shown in so many different ways. The love that I think perhaps just by like stopping more, like people were saying, I'm also seeing, not all the time by any means, but at least some of the time, I'm seeing, like, I'm giving space for more love to come up in myself as well, and just to kind of allow it, and just so many examples of people thinking about others, of people helping others in all kinds of ways, and yeah, so that's what inspires me the most, I think, is just all the love that's coming out of this in so many ways from so many people in so many places.
Excellent. Thank you. Laura and Nick, unmute. It's your moment. Unmute, come on. Who wants to go first? Oh, Nick, apparently.
Well, it's kind of difficult to actually add something new to what already has been said. And obviously, kind of like we live in very interesting times. It's good to be able to, just go outside and, as I think, as Lisbeth said, like just listen to the bird song. It's fantastic. The atmosphere kind of like, the air smells better. And, at least I tend to, to feel happier, kind of like more perhaps, tuned to nature, or attuned and in tune, I think, with nature as well. So obviously I have very good company. But there's kind of like I'm at the same time, trying to keep an eye on how things are going outside, and I cannot really help myself kind of like register a little bit of anxiety of kind of like how we're going to move forward, because it's nice to to hear, and obviously within our environment, and obviously kind of like throughout reaching out globally, really, our kiddo friends, and saying, how great an opportunity is, but like it's still missing the dialogue of like what we need to do, and like how to realize, kind of like but we need to act now. So it's as I said, kind of like I'm just kind of still grappling with these ideas. And
Laura,
how we must move
you
forward.
want to add?
Yeah, I would say that I feel hope actually at this time. I felt before like everything was very depressing because of everyone was super intensely worried about climate change, Brexit, recession, austerity. Everything was very depressing, terrorism. But now I feel like, collectively as a nation, we're all a lot more appreciative of the natural world, and we see how it can recover. So I feel like there is a way opening up to how we could live differently in terms of how to tackle climate change, and that we don't have to be like lemmings just following each other off a cliff. And people's attitudes have changed. Like for me, I always thought that the public health system was really important and that carers were really important. And then, you know, like we only recently had an election where I felt that that wasn't really valued by the majority of people's decisions. But now everybody seems to reverse their thinking and actually think, oh yeah, that is really important. So to me, things in some ways, like people's ideas and values are shifting. To me, that's quite a hopeful thing. And I also think what Piers was saying in the break was about, you know, are we going to keep up this shift away from consumerism? So I really hope that we will. And for me personally, I feel less anxiety now because I think there's less pressure to feel less of the fear of missing out. You should be doing this and that, and you should be improving your home, and you should be buying new clothes, and you should be, you know, you just, usually you're on such a hamster wheel of life. You think like you're always failing because, you know, I haven't put on any makeup this morning, I don't look good enough, or I haven't prepared enough for my work meeting, or, you know, maybe I haven't made it to Aikido tonight because I'm too tired, or something. Like, there's a lot of guilt that you're not doing enough. And then when you can't do these things and you can't buy things because they're not even in the shops, or, you know, if they're not in stock or whatever, you just have to let go of all that and think all that can wait. And then you actually realize, oh, you don't need to do all that. Great. And all that was false.
Thank you, Laura. Hugh.
Quentin, thanks. I think, first of all, these online sessions have been absolutely fantastic. There's been a great coming together and a great solidarity within the Aikido community, which has been really very pleasant indeed. And I think we're all privileged to be part of it and have the training individually to get through some of these things. I also think, though, that, you know, most of us are lucky enough. Maybe we've got a bit of a garden, we've got a little bit of savings, we've got a little bit of leeway to manage these difficult times. But I think there are an awful lot of people who are suffering very badly indeed, locked up in a small place, maybe lost their jobs, maybe in the gig economy with very little on the horizon to come back, maybe with an abusive partner that you're locked in with. All these things which, you know, listening to nature and going for the walks and being at peace with oneself is good, but there are a lot of people who are not in that situation. And I think that we are in for a very challenging time. I was reading an article which was really shocked me a little bit by the Pulitzer Prize winner Chris Hedges today. These are the good times compared to what's coming next. And it was largely a sort of critique on America and the political and economic situation, the division there. But these things apply in many other places. And your own question, Quentin, is how do we use all this to in daily life to take it forward? It is going to be very important to bring this training to bear in what is in front of us. And I think outside of the tremendous tension at the front line of the NHS, certainly in the UK, and hospitals and health systems around the country, around the world today, we could see a tremendous unleashing of energy, both positive and negative, when the barriers start coming down again. And it behoves all of us to be ready for that and to do our own little bit to help other people through what is ahead.
I would like to speak to that for just a moment, Hugh, because I completely agree with you that what's coming is worth spending a tremendous amount of attention on. And I think that the second virus really will be our loneliness, our isolation, our anxiety, and our depression from all of this. And I think Aikido really needs to be prepared to have some impact as a method and as a way, and really think out of the box enough to imagine that we could be helpful as a de-stressor, or helpful in terms of the domestic violence, massive amounts of domestic violence that is coming out of this. And I can see it in my own community, and I can see it in my Aikido community. I can see it in Seattle, and I think that we really actually need to be preparing right now for what you're saying, so that we can be viable in some way to be for people.
Judith, you've unmuted, so what about you?
Okay, a couple of things. I'm agreeing with what Deborah said about it's so wonderful to see so much kindness and compassion, people looking out for each other. I went out in my back garden a couple of weeks ago, and all you could hear was people calling across gardens to check everyone was okay, they've got everything they needed. Also, the fact that I've been ill long term, and often I can't get out of my house, but now everybody's doing things on Zoom, so I can be connected with people much better. I'm doing spiritual inquiry with Bjorn Saw every day, and I'm doing Aikido most days as well, what I can do of it. Brilliant. So yeah, it's lots of positive things coming out.
That's awesome.
Josh, I see you've unmuted, so do you want to give us your inspiration?
Yeah, I can share a few words, and sorry I'm not sharing video today, but I'm in a lot of pain, so I figured I'd stick to audio.
No problem.
So I think very existentially, like all of my life, and especially at this time, so with your question about what inspires us with Aikido, where we're at, where are we moving forward, I think, I mean, when you really think about moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, and then we go to sleep and wake up another day, we can interact with each other person to person, which is limited now, but in terms of everything that we've trained in the past and everything we're trying to learn moving forward, that's half of it, right? How are we going to be with other people whenever there's any intersection of a life or of two bodies, two minds in one place? And to me, especially with, I think Hugh mentioned in terms of forecasting for the future, even though I haven't been training relatively that long, really less than 2 years now, there's the knowledge of how absolutely critically significant the kind of embodied, mindful, centered presence of someone that has that somatic awareness of where we're at and where our mind goes, which is so much of Aikido, to someone who does not. So in any situation, being able to always return to that, both practicing on our own and where it comes up, I think is critical, essential, and hopefully really, not hopefully, I think very much a lot of the hopefulness for me in terms of one-to-one interactions. And that's going to change for all of us based on who we're going to be with in the next few days, weeks, months, and years and decades of where we're all at. And then the other is just what we can do in terms of our connections with others non-locally like this. And that seems to be so much about what you and Aiki Extensions and all of this is about, especially within Aikido, is what are the structures non-locally happening through technology and also not technology to be able to have those kind of same things start rippling outward. And that seems like it's still really just kind of trying to form and merge into something. And I hope to be more a part of that moving forward, because it seems like there's so much vision there. It just doesn't quite have the what that all is going to look like yet. And then last, and then to tie it into your question, you use the word inspiration. Nothing really inspires me now, to be honest, but there's kind of a soulful, subtle hope inside of me that's keeping me going through my own situation that I know you, Quentin, know about, and for others somewhat, but mostly I'm just going through a lot of my own deep health issues, not COVID related so far as I know. And also trying to find a place to arrive. So for me, it's interesting that Kimberly, you teach in Seattle. I'm in the Midwest now. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I'm living, and I've considered going out to Seattle. I'm looking for a place kind of everywhere I go and everyone I talk to isn't in the same situation, which is what place can I put myself that all of the kind of butterfly effects of all of our actions will be a part of that whole. I think so many people are always saying they're hopeful about and trying to move towards. So yeah, that's a lot of thought, a lot of words. This is where I'm at, but I always try and return to the question because that was the frame for it is just every time we have a one-to-one with anyone in any situation, our embodied practice is going to be a part of that. And then also, how do we amplify that through whatever we put our mind on, but not our bodies, namely every time we're on a computer or a phone.
Thanks for that, Josh. I really appreciate the fact that you're seeing it as something that every interaction you have with another human being, it's part of all the same thing.
Absolutely.
Steve, can I bring you into the conversation? What inspires you? Steve,
Sorry?
What inspires you?
What, to answer your question?
No, Kimberly's question.
Oh, Kimberly's. Oh, yes, of course it was. It's so long ago. In my case, I'm lucky I can get out, you know, half an hour with the dog, etc. But when I am out, because he's a guide dog, people come well within the rules of distancing to talk to the dog. And I keep saying, can you back off? And people think I'm mad or something, but I just, you know. But I mean, I don't see anyone now for about 8 weeks.
Wow, that's a long time.
I'm okay with it, but I'm beginning to wonder how much more I've got to deal with. But I think when I need to, I should get the appropriate people in, you know. But the key question, Kimberly, was about when I was last working with you, your Aikido was smooth, soft, and yet firm. How many years did that take you to get there?
Still working on it, Steve.
I'll let you know when I got it.
Really? Oh my God. Great question.
Caroline, would you like to unmute and tell us what inspires you?
Right inside.
So, Caroline.
Are you talking to me, Sensei?
I am. You're the only Caroline here. So what inspires you right now?
This is not fair because I had to answer another call for 5 minutes. So I haven't been able to hear it.
You want me to come back to you when you've had a chance to think about it? And I'll move to Jamie.
Yay.
Jamie, happy birthday for yesterday, by the way. What inspires you right now?
Well, you know, I just relating to what everybody's talking about, you know, like what Laura was saying, I was kind of done with my lifestyle in a certain sense. I really, and with everything. And I think that, you know, I'm used to jumping on airplanes and rental cars and all of that. I'm zooming around now. So I'm saving all that time and energy, which is kind of cool. I'm actually meeting more people and, you know, these forums, and the more that we actually get together and I see people coming together is just really amazing. I'm finding a lot of opportunities opening up. I mean, I feel like one of the fortunate ones. I've been sheltered for 8 weeks. I'm writing, I'm creating, I'm, you know, doing a lot of things. But I think, you know, it's been like, you know, a shift in personal lifestyle and collective lifestyle. I don't think no one's ever been through this before and had this opportunity to stop, to sit still, to watch nature renew within a matter of weeks or months is you know, really encouraging. We've got to shift everything. We knew that before, and man, you know, we didn't pay attention. It was like, okay, now we got a huge pandemic. Like, are you going to pay attention? And you know, people, I think are, and I think that, you know, speaking of like Aiki extensions in terms of Aikido, you know, we're looking more deeply into ourselves because we don't have the uke there, and so we're in here more, and really looking at these questions. I think people in Aikido who have not necessarily been like, you know, we have so much looking at how do we extend Aikido? How does that make a difference in our values and how we live and how we go about our relationships, a more peaceful kind of power, more harmonious with one another, with nature, you know, all these kinds of things that are part of Aikido. How do we be more balanced and centered? How do we shift maybe our consumerism and all of those things that, you know, and what does Aikido contribute to that conversation? So I think in Aikido, people are starting to go more deeply into themselves and also into the all the questions of how do we apply and use Aikido in our lives, and to help contribute to this world that we want to, an emerging new and better world that we want to be an active part of that conversation. So I think we have a lot of opportunities, and they're showing themselves as well. You know, to take them, but I think we're going in different directions, more deeply inward, more deeply into the meaning of Aikido and what it can do beyond, you know, Nikkyos and Shionagis and stuff. So all of that stuff's inspiring me. I feel, you know, this is a really rich time. I've never stopped. I'm like, you're go, 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 go. So I'm going, but from here, and it's been really good. I'm appreciative of it, and so appreciative with all these kinds of opportunities to get together that technology's affording. So yeah, thank you. And I think there's a lot that can happen and is happening in this time.
Thank you, Jamie. Dimitra?
Yes. Well, the first thing is that a silence, a pause was forced upon us. And that was a good pause. It was a good silence. And silence is also important in Aikido, because to connect with your inner self and your center, it presupposes internal mental silence, and even in the middle of moving. So one of the good things, because I really think it's an opportunity for us all globally, the first benefit that I see is this silence that leads you into your presence and to a journey to look inward. So this is a very positive thing. And it is also related to our daily practice. And the second thing, I live in Athens, Greece. And what I see here with this lockdown, a lot of compassionate work has been happening in the community, like groups have been organized to help the homeless and take care of them, people who really, because people are complaining about the lockdown, but how about the homeless who don't even have a home to stay in? So a lot of community groups have been organized to help those people, also groups to help the immigrants, because we have thousands of them coming illegally from Turkey to Greek borders and European borders. So a lot of compassionate work has grown and keeps growing out of this, which is wonderful. And also I think that globally, we all have to see when this slowly or rapidly comes to an end, it is very important to see what will the next day be like or the next months be like. It's very crucial that we pay attention globally, that we don't go back to the same running madness.
Yeah.
And how we can help with that individually. I personally feel well because that gave me more time to practice. I practice every day. I can offer 3 times a week free online classes to the people who train with me, and I'm very grateful for that. They also feel very well for having this, and it's just a beautiful opportunity to look more inward and have more silence.
Thank you.
So, and I just, before ending, I just want to thank Kimberly Richardson for this wonderful sharing from the heart that she did with all of us.
Caroline, are you ready now? Have you thought of some inspiration?
Yeah, a little bit. I've been thinking on a sort of more practical note a bit about the things you were asking us just before we stopped, about how to get more people in the club and what people might come to Aikido for. And then in my own life, I'm looking at my job as an acupuncturist and wondering when on earth I'm going to be able to go back to work, which may be difficult. And looking at doing a bit more sport and movement as part of helping people. And I was thinking about why it is we even stay active, and about interoception, our internal sense of ourselves. And sorry, my dog is pestering me. Aikido has so much of that. Aikido has those kind of real magic moments. I mean, even the the very simple unbendable arm, finding one point, and whether there's a way to access some of that and take that to people in a really, really basic way, in a way.
You need to develop 2 meter long needles, I think, then you should be all right on the acupuncture front.
Yeah, I know. I have done some acupuncture with people online. It's not quite the same.
Piers, you've been very quiet. Inspiration, please.
Yeah, I've actually, because I'm sort of still working. I run a manufacturing company, and actually looking after 15 or 16 people and making sure that their mental well-being is okay and that they've got enough to do. And actually, I'm working harder now at the moment than I was before. And because we're all working from home, everyone thinks that, oh, I usually work 3 days a week for that company and a day a week for someone else. And actually, because you're at home, they just think, oh, he's contactable, so we'll just ask him for stuff. So that's been actually quite tiring and stressful. What's been inspirational is my daily walks. And I mean, I used to have a dog. I haven't had a dog for about 8 years. And walking up on the hill every day has been truly wonderful because the weather's been so marvelous. So that's been fantastic. And I think, you know, I'm not fantastic with social media and all the tech. And yet I've been running Aikido classes on a Tuesday night, and Demetra's been there, and she runs a Qigong session for me. And I've reached out to all sorts of people. Shemek did a class for me, and my son and my son-in-law, who are specialists in chiropractic and neurology and physiotherapy, and they all come in and they do all this stuff. And then I got asked to do a 40-minute class in Warsaw, and you see all these kids and all these parents doing their Aikido in the room, and they're following you, and you just think, oh my God, this is absolutely fantastic. And no, you can't throw people, but they're giving it a go, because I love these sessions. They're really interesting, but I wanted to do something that was to do with moving. And I've made contact with one of my downgrades who's now in South Africa, and he's coming to my classes on a Tuesday night. I've got a downgrade who emigrated down to Deepest, Darkest Kent, and he's coming to the classes. And so you're making contacts with people that have moved away, and I'm getting more people coming to the digital class than come to my physical class. And that's inspiration.
Yeah, let's not go there, Piers.
And then you think, well, maybe this sort of thing should carry on afterwards. And you think, well, maybe that's one of the ways where you can actually inspire people to get off their asses. They start online, and then maybe they'll transfer to the club. So the tech and the contacts, that's actually quite inspirational, I think.
I agree.
Dave, I'm not sure when you were here when the question was asked. The question Kimberly asked was, what inspires you right now? So you can unmute and unload.
Oh, that's a bit. What inspires me quite now? I just think the Zoom community at the moment is inspirational for me. I got a really nice invite to come and join Kimberly and her crew watching some videos of the teach they had, and sharing that across 7,000, 8,000 miles was really special. I've had training courses with people on 3 continents at the same time, and I think there's a lot of nice people trying to do lovely things, sharing their time, sharing experiences, and there's such a lot of some wonderful people out there doing great things, and that inspires me to go and try and do what they're doing, I think. And people, I guess, have got the time now to go and spend the time to think about these things and create these opportunities. And I think, it's good that the people have the chance to do that and go out and do this great stuff. All of that just inspirational, just seeing what my friends are doing, what my colleagues are doing, and just the opportunity to share and be open and honest. And this certainly this forum is excellent for that. You can see your faces, you can see your gestures, you can hear it in your voice. It's much nicer than, not as good as being physically there in the room and giving you a hug and a throw, but it's it's a great substitute, and I think it's I think some of this will continue afterwards, I'm sure. that's going to be the challenge. How do we mix this and real life, I guess, when real life moves back into flow?
This is real life. It's just a different form of real life. Kimberly.
Quentin, can I just add one word of thank you for a specific piece of inspiration, if I may? And that's to Jamie from a couple of weeks ago, who was describing the real meaning behind some Hebrew expressions, and which I found very fascinating, because I've been doing quite a lot of that with Will Reed in Japan on the real meaning behind Japanese phrases. But one of the things I've been doing during this period of lockdown, which has been really inspiring and a great deal of fun, is I challenged a senior friend of mine who's rather good at haiku to write a haiku every day to each other. So mine have tended to try and reflect the environment that we're in. And one of the phrases that Jamie mentioned the other day was the translation of paying attention. Forgive me, I forget the Hebrew word. Was to put your heart to it. And this just brought out a small haiku, which sort of relates to the NHS effort, I think, of paying attention, eyes shining behind the mask, put your heart to it. And it just seemed to sum up the moment. And thank you for it.
Thank you.
Quentin, can I just say one other thing that was inspirational to me, and that is just the classes that Laura and Nick and David have been running on a Saturday morning. I don't know, Kimberly, David is a friend of Nick and Laura's, and he's an Iaido master, expert, teacher, way ahead of me. And that's all I'm ever interested in, is if the guy knows 5% more than me, then that's fantastic, because he can pass it on. And he's been doing these amazing classes. And that's why I take my Bokken everywhere with me. I was walking past this father and daughter who really gave me a very worried look. What the hell is this guy carrying around a wooden sword for?
Piers, I'm really looking forward to hearing about your conversation with a police officer.
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Slightly illegal, I would suggest, but there you go.
It is illegal, but fortunately, I've got 2 policemen in my club, and they'll probably vouch for me.
Kimberly, last word to you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this session has flown by for me.
Yeah,
I just want to express my thanks to you. You've been great with the sharing. It's just been lovely. It's been like sitting in a lounge with old friends, really, and been a real joy to hear what you had to say. Yeah,
I do feel like it's about friendship. I really do, and we're all here together, and we're looking at each other's aspirations and hopes and dreams and anguishes, and it's pretty great that we have each other. You know.
Do you guys in America know Michael Parkinson?
No.
You're gonna catch, I'm not sure that I know that person.
Okay, so he was a very, very famous English. He had a chat show on TV every Saturday night for decades, and he was smooth and good looking, had quite a good sense of humor. I think Quentin's taking over from him.
From one brother to another, yeah.
Go in there, Piers, for a second. Okay.
I'm so proud of him, I can't tell you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's got to be a finisher for me.
So happy to see you all. Take care and hold your heart high.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So happy to see you.
Bye, everyone. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks,
care,
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Come back and see us, Kimberly. Come
I'll
again.
be delighted. I'll be so delighted. Yeah.
I look forward to
Waiting for you.
All right. Take care, you all.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'm going to close the room now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.